space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, Sir Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
Nearly Christmas.
It is nearly Christmas, and what better time to talk about the Reconking and Valiant from Deep Space Nine?
Well, the Reckoning's a very this episode, so it fits into for some people.
I gotta
say very religious episode.
I kind of flipped on which ones I was more looking forward to out of these two, because I thought I was more looking forward to the Rapture. The first one is not the Rapture. It's
Reckoning.
Reckoning. Sorry,
the Reckoning.
And not so much the Valiant. I kind of flipped my decision on this one, I think.
I'm not sure. I enjoyed both of them, but we'll get into it.
Well, I can get into why, but yeah, we'll wait.
But the Reckoning isn't technically a Dominion War episode, but we decided the Par-Wraith related events are too important to where we go in the later stages of the Dominion War that we had to cover it here. So
depending on what happens,
that's why we're doing that one.
Seeing as we've had a few sort of tenuous links where we've included, I think this one is actually pretty strong, because depending on what would have happened if things hadn't unfolded the way they did, it could have completely changed the end of the series.
It could indeed. So
and the war.
This one's an essential one to include.
Yeah.
And Valiant speaks for itself, like it's Dominion War. So, and we're in the run-up to the finale of season 6 now. So let's have a look at what's going on in these two episodes. So first up then is The Reckoning, which is kind of a sequel really to the Rapture episode, I think, in that we've got a mysterious Bajoran tablet again, and we've got Cisco going on a religious sort of a mental pilgrimage, if you like. He doesn't actually go anywhere in this one, but he goes down the emissary route, and we get I want to say the first sort of manifestation in the real world of the prophets. Like, we've seen them as visions and things before, and the orbs and everything, but we actually get a bona fide prophet strutting around the promenade this week.
And it's the first time we've actually had anything solid about the Par-Wraiths. They've been kind of sort of just rumored.
They've been mentioned, they've been alluded to, but this is full on Par-Wraiths are real.
I think this is where you start the build up to them being the kind of ultimate foe to the prophets, which are going to be featured in the water, the denouement to the war, if you will. But it's I think, kind of what you were saying is kind of like why I enjoyed this less. It just felt like a little bit of a redo in quite a lot of areas of the Rapture, and done a little less successfully. And it's almost like there were so many pockets of ideas that they could have gone down, which I wanted them to more. I would have really loved the Par-Wraiths to be featured more, a bit earlier, like the whole battle to be a bit more central as opposed to just on the end. I think you could have really built it up into something which is vastly different from Rapture. Whereas to me, I was doing too many comparisons in my head, I guess.
Yeah, the early parts of the episode are very, very, very much that, aren't they?
We do get as they open up. Right at the beginning, you've got Jake is saying that he seems he said he's bored basically of being in this cave, where it's every time you've gone into a cave like this with your dad when he's on an emissary mission, he gets into the shit. Or anytime he experiences an orb, it's he's been sent back in time, he's been sent to alternate universes, he's been basically taken, become a wormhole alien himself, all this stuff, and he's going, it's a bit of Yawnsville. It's you're not concerned for your dad. They could have built this up to really add weight to what he says in the end by having him being like, oh my God, no, don't go in there. Don't do that. And like all the way through, Cisco could have been dining out what he's doing. And he's going, no, stop it, stop. And then at the end where he goes, shit, no, I get it now. I was taken over by one of these guys. You need to stop them.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, like the thing is, that part where Jake's sort of yawn and it's just a cave, it's boring. It was almost like he's playing a petulant teenager, which we have never from him before or after. It's a very different. It's like someone new is writing. Oh, I'm writing for a teenager. Right, this is how teenagers act, without having actually watched what Jake has been like for 6 seasons.
I'll even say it's like they watched the first season, Jake, which was maybe a bit more like this, and they've got to say, oh, it's that. Yeah, it's like they've not bothered to follow his arc because he really did grow up on the show.
Yeah, the other thing as well is, like, as we get a lot of in the next episode, Jake at this stage is the reporter. And he's always looking for a story and a scoop. And it's like, you know what's a pretty big story? That there's this bougie cave on Bayshore, and every time your dad goes in it, something monumental happens. Like that makes a pretty good story. You've got gods that are actually real things. You know, that's a pretty big story.
I mean, you've
just found a tablet that's addressed to your dad. Like, you know, these are pretty exciting.
It was addressed to him 30,000 years ago. This is quite clever.
Mind you, I mean, I did think with that, it's like, okay, because we know he's the emissary. That's why it's kind of like momentous. But it's like, basically, they've talked about the emissary from Bayshore since time immemorial, as far as we know. So it's like, the fact that it says this is to the prophets, and we go like to the emissary, and like that's the big stinger, I think, isn't it, going into the episode? And it's like, yeah, but like that they had things to the emissary before it was Cisco. So it's like, really, if you think about
it, but there wasn't an emissary before Cisco.
There wasn't an emissary.
Yeah, I know.
So there's like so we've now got for at least 30,000 years of Bajoran culture. They have been waiting for the emissary, and things are being written directly for him that he will arrive.
So that tablet is basically the equivalent of the letter that Doc writes to Marty. There's probably a Bajoran Vedic somewhere that's like, you know, we were having bets on whether this emissary would actually turn up. Looks like I lost.
Well, it's like, but with that, at least Marty is a set thing. It's like he's writing it to one particular human like person, not an ethereal like emissary. I do take what you're saying, but it's just and there's also a few bits like which is similar where people are like so blasé despite what they've seen. So at one bit Bashir goes like, and I think they were just trying to include him in the episode because he isn't in it much. It was like he goes, oh God, this is a bit ridiculous. Why are we taking this seriously? It's not like we've seen them do loads of shit every episode since the beginning of the series.
Like, how do you think you retook the station at the beginning of the season if it wasn't for the prophets? Before we get to Valhalla, though, we do get a little bit about the Dominion War. Like they're having a briefing, and it's the Dominion could attack Vulcan. The Romulans have forced a retreat already, so that shows, you know, Cisco.
The Romulans. I like where it's like the Romulans have retaken. Oh, which planet is it?
Oh, I can't remember, but Arcanus or something. And it's like, oh, do you think they'll give it back?
And like, obviously, Odo's there. No, the Romulans aren't known for giving back territory that they've taken.
True. And Odo and Kira, because we've obviously, because it's not an arc-heavy episode, we've jumped over the one where they get together.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They're both very good actors, and I like some of the stuff they do with it. But it still feels a bit awkward at this stage. Like they're trying to play. The Odo's always have this thing with Kira where he's played it with this sort of quiet dignity to it all. And that worked when it was unrequited, whereas now he's been a bit lovey-dovey, and Kira's playing it as if she's like a teenager in love. And I don't know, that to me just doesn't feel like how their relationship would be. So it's a relationship that's grounded in years of friendship and mutual respect, not that
Yeah.
they've got the hots for each other. You know, it's just a little bit weird, the shift, I think.
And isn't it just the episode before when they got together, which feels like this was sort of like shoehorned in here just to remind you, it's like, oh yeah, we're not ignoring the fact they're together. Don't worry, we're going to feature this later.
Now.
It's like a placeholder sort of thing. And it does feel clunky, and it does feel like, well, they just got together. I know they've known each other for years, but what, they fall into that, like they're trying to fall into a groove they haven't had enough time to as actors or as a couple. Like it feels a little forced here. Just
I think they get there with Kira and Odo, but I don't know. It just, I mean, it's the best relationship Kira's been in so far. It's a step up from Shakar, and God knows it's a step up from Vedic Burial. So you know,
so you're not a fan of Burial? This is news.
No one's a fan of Burial. Come on.
It was all right. I wasn't a fan, but I didn't think it was as bad as you guys.
Oh, he's terrible.
No, it's not as bad as Chakotay.
No. Or maybe.
As an actor or as a as a character.
He's in it less than Chakotay. So anyway. And another one, Dax is really sarky about when they get this tablet as well. She's like, oh, it's another tablet. It's like, you need to start taking these tablets seriously. Like, you know that these aliens send things to Cisco, and that those things do things.
You have to admit, but at this point, all of them have to admit the wormhole aliens or prophets, whatever you want to call them, are real because they're the only thing stopping the Alpha Quadrant from having fallen at the moment by stopping the Dominion fleet in a bloody wormhole.
That's exactly it. It's like they would still believe, like, you know, they might not believe they're prophets, but they know they're super powerful wormhole aliens. They are that thing of like when science becomes so far from our experience that it's sorry. There's a quote which I'm loosely doing here where it's like the science has become so advanced that it's indistinguishable from magic. Yes, I was getting there. Jesus, you two are impatient.
Yeah.
You were fishing for it. We provided it for you.
I was getting there. Come on, you have to let me kind of like marinate, much like their relationship, which they didn't let marinate. Anyway.
Oh, nice. Well played.
But Dax is another great example because she was saying it's like, well, I think you'll find I'll be calling them wormhole aliens, and then every other scene she calls them prophets. Every other scene after she doesn't want to call them wormhole aliens. It's like you don't. Like it's so inconsistent to everything that's gone before, and
it's like Dax discovered the wormhole with Cisco. She was the first person to meet the prophets. So.
Like she didn't actually meet the prophets, but she saw a totally different landscape.
Yeah, she knows
that they're in a different place.
Yeah, she saw the effects of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean,
the gods to believe that they are able to do all these things. Just that's it.
It's like it's probably because they want the juxtaposition for Cisco and his faith and everything, which is fair enough. But it feels like them weird episodes of the X-Files that they did where they did religion and all of a sudden Scully was the believer and Mulder was like, no. And it's like, well, hang on, you believe in everything else, but not God stuff. And Scully, like, you've been abducted by aliens, but you don't believe in that. But anyway, but you know what I mean? It's like we're flipping it to get the dramatic beats that we want, even though it doesn't make a lot of internal sense.
The other way you do it is, as I say, it's like the same thing which would play into Jake's kind of like he could have had an arc throughout this. You do make it so Cisco is making more and more increasingly rash-looking decisions because he's the emissary, not because the wormhole aliens are doing this. Everyone knows they can do that, and prophets, wormhole aliens, whatever you call them, they can do these things. We know this. But if he, like, you know, the moment when he smashed the tablet, if they made that sort of like more into like, what are you doing? Like, you know, they're questioning what he's doing every step of the way, as opposed to questioning what they can do, questioning what he's doing in the name of them. That makes it so much more compelling. You could make Kai even like, oh, geez, like, we know we don't like her, and we know she's always out for herself, but she's got some good points. You know, you could have really made us kind of question a few of our beliefs going into this episode.
I do like the way she's portrayed.
To be fair, I think the Kai has a really good point in this episode when she's going, you've taken an object. I don't agree with what she did at first, where Cisco explains things, and she goes straight above his head to Starfleet to complain.
Yes.
But
that's worm.
Once things start happening on Bejor, where the weather's gone weird, there's flooding, crops are suddenly failing. Cisco believes it's religion. She believes it's all religion. They both believe in the prophets. And she's going, you've removed an important artifact from the prophets from where it was. And they're angry. And that's why these things are happening to Bejor. Return it. And I think she's got a perfectly valid point there.
I agree. And it also, just because I don't want to forget this moment, because it was near the end, but there is a moment where she says, may the prophets forgive me. And I thought it was really interesting because I do like those moments you get every now and again where no one else is around. No one else can hear what she's saying. So what that tells us is that, okay, she may be like batshit. She may be out for herself. However, she really believes she is doing the right thing by the prophet. Like she really, and when she's questioning that, she goes, may the prophets forgive me. She's still questioning herself right up until she becomes a bitch of the Paraith.
Yeah,
Point.
At that point, I think she's putting the people of Bejor over the prophets, and that's the contrast with Cisco, who isn't. And I mean, we'll get to it when we get to the end. But yeah, like it's interesting. See, it does raise this thing about like where each of them stands in the Bajoran religion, because theoretically, the Kai is the person who speaks for the prophets, so she can say we need to return the tablet. But the emissary, the head of the church, yeah. But Cisco is the one that the prophets speak directly to, and that's how they perceive it. So I would guess that in matters of interpreting the will of the prophets, the emissary would supersede the Kai if they're not in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I suppose it'd be the equivalent of the king in our country saying God wants us to do this, but then the Archbishop of Canterbury saying you may be officially the head of the church, but I'm the one that he calls, so that's not what he wants. You know,
we've seen this in America, because it used to be that if the Pope said something, any American politician would go by what the Pope said. They couldn't question them. Even if they disagreed, the most they could do is not comment. And you got to a point where the current Pope started making very kind of like very humanistic gestures. He was doing things which were accepting of different groups and all these things, which ruffled the feathers of the Republicans. For the first time in my lifetime, or any of our lifetimes, and in fact, I think in politics way back as far as I can think of or know of, like they directly spoke out against the Pope, like their religion was separate to the Pope, which it can't be if you're of that religion.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we've kind of seen it in real life, which is Deep Space Nine's always been really good at pointing out these kind of things or being
I'm not religious, but in England we sorted that out centuries ago. We went, yeah, we don't follow the Pope anymore because Henry VIII wanted to get divorced, so we have the Church of England. Which solved the problem.
which I love, because it's like, what? So you're just blatantly just going to make up a religion? Okay,
yeah,
cool, yeah, we're just that new one.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
now this is an infallible religion. Like, how can it be you made it? Like, if you made it up within history.
Yeah, I think we'll leave the debate on validity of religions there for now. But it is an interesting idea, like how these two figureheads of this religion relate to each other, and we have the benefit of being able to see everything Cisco's done, and we know that the prophets do speak directly to him. But interestingly, in this episode, they don't give us that. They don't show us the prophets appearing to Cisco and saying, smash the tablet. And
no, not that part, but we see him at the beginning talking to him.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is they leave enough space within the episode for it to be a little bit ambiguous for us to watch and go, whoa, is Cisco going too far here?
Yeah.
You know? And that's pretty cool. Whereas if we had scenes all the way through the episodes with the prophets appearing, saying, no, trust me, Jake will be all right. We'll look after him. It'll be fine. We're just trying to kill the Parave. We as the audience wouldn't necessarily have as much tension there. So it's good that they give us that little bit of ambiguity there.
Also, I mean, if you think about it as well, the Kai is quite happy to say or do stuff which works against the emissary. And all Cisco has to do, which he's proven in Pale Moonlight, that he's ready to do what is needed to end this war. But when it comes to the prophets and his quest, he will not lie. He will not obfuscate. He will not, like, even if it will work in his favor and would get, because if he said to the guy, she goes like, oh, well, I didn't hear the bit of the prophecy where they told you not to do that. And he honestly says, well, I didn't say it, was just a feeling I got within me. And he didn't have to be that honest, but it's like this is too important to, it's more important to him than Starfleet. It's more important to him than the war. This is his calling.
Yeah, that's it. He's willing to be led completely by the prophets. What's that Facebook user? Hi guys, not sure what I've been invited to, but sounds interesting. Okay.
To Retrek, to the best Star Trek podcast known to man. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating there or being big-headed.
Oh, it's Emma. It's Emma Jekyll. We know Emma.
Hello, Emma. We do know Emma. Hello, Emma.
And welcome. Adam earlier on said hello, gents, as well. So
hello, Adam. We need some names up here. Oh, correct.
It's Facebook user. Everyone's called Facebook user for the purposes of this.
Yeah, that's me. Hi, Emma. How are you?
So anyway, yeah, where were we? So there's a bit of back and forth, and there's debates among the crew as to how much they believe of the religious side and everything. And it's an interesting discussion, but in a way it's less interesting because, as we've said, we know that categorically these are nearly omnipotent aliens.
Yeah,
so
and like we keep saying, it doesn't matter if they believe the prophets or what they actually want to call them, wormhole aliens. They all know what they have done to save the Alpha Quadrant.
Exactly.
We don't know if they destroyed the Dominion fleet or just kicked them back to the Gamma Quadrant and shot a wormhole to them. That's ambiguous. We don't know that. But what we do know is that they're not letting anyone come through that from the Gamma Quadrant who could attack the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
They've already made a fleet of ships disappear, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but they couldn't do this. And it's like, also, they met Q as well, like another god-like being. Sorry.
Yeah, it's odd.
There's a whole, like, in Star Trek, there's a whole history of omnipotent beings, well documented. We have was it the Metrons?
We had all sorts in the original series, practically every fifth episode.
But
it was one of them stories.
But it's like, it's well established in Starfleet that they are omnipotent beings out there. Mm-hmm. Is it godlike powers, or is it technology so advanced that it appears as magic to us?
Or maybe it's Maybelline. Sorry, that's another thing. I mean, go back to the original series. Like, there was always a cloud which was an omniscient being.
Yeah,
like
Trelane. There was.
Trelane, which is probably a Q thanks to the books, which I really like that one.
I like that one as well, yeah. So ultimately this leads to the confrontation, the time of the reckoning, which involves a prophet and a power wraith, which came out of the tablet, possessing someone.
Which makes sense of what when Dax was translating it, there's going to be all sorts of destruction and all sorts, or there'll be fruit because there'll be bountiful harvests.
Yeah. And Kira gets chosen by the prophets, and Jake gets chosen by the power wraiths. Kira makes a lot of sense.
Kira makes a lot of sense, and I like the fact that Odo is perfectly all right with it. He goes, look, I fully know what Kira's faith is and how much she trusts in the prophets.
Yeah.
If this prophet is saying that Kira's let her they'll do this, she has, and I have no problem with that because that's her beliefs and her faith.
Yeah.
And it not only does it affect Odo, but you've got to remember he was raised Bajoran, basically. You know,
yeah.
I mean, that's got to have affected him somehow. And it's like, the only thing I don't get is, like, again, Jake could have been really used here, but he wasn't. And why is he still there? Because he hasn't been writing a story, which, like you guys said, that would make sense. He's just there. Like, why didn't he go from one of the skate pods if he isn't doing anything?
For
We do see
dramatic
that
purposes.
he does
Yeah.
have a history of not going off on escape pods when he's told to
That's
evacuate the
true.
station.
Yeah, but he wasn't even asked to. Like here, it's like Cisco seems perfectly fine. He's there. I don't.
Yeah, but he does have a history, a track record of not leaving the station when he's told.
Oh, I get
to.
that. It just feels like we featured him at the beginning, then we don't need him, and now we need him to be one of the aliens again.
Yeah.
If that's going to have the stakes, you really have to feature him in the episode to like remind us he's there. Otherwise, he just appears from nowhere. It doesn't. Even though we know it's Jake, we know how important he is. We know it's Cisco's son. In the episode, he doesn't feel that important.
No, true.
detracts,
No.
I feel like, from
Until
the
the
end
end, yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, it does make sense that out of everyone on the station, because they're not going to be able to possess Cisco because he's the emissary, but it does make sense that they possess his son to try and put pressure on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was going
that
to
makes
say
perfect
it's a
sense,
good,
but what
it's a
builds them
good
up is the
choice.
So this moment means all the more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the actual battle, such as it is, it's not a bad effect, but it doesn't have a huge amount of dramatic tension, them just standing firing different coloured lights at each other. I get what they were going for because it wouldn't make sense for them to have a martial arts fight either.
Yeah.
That wouldn't make any sense. It has to be something a bit more existential.
I think what they're trying to show is that it's just pure power firing at each other, and who's got the most pure power.
But they could have been the shapes of being, which like you could have seen some more interaction of the light and how it's like make it feel like a battle.
well-
you could add the bodies of the people who are the hosts writhing in pain, you know, to make us care a bit more.
You get a little.
I didn't
bit
really
of
care
that.
about this
Yeah,
battle
but
that much.
I think it's that sort of like what they can do on a TV budget with the CGI with two people battling like this.
Possibly,
maybe
but it's also an artistic choice to go. We're going to have them standing still, and we're just going to do.
Yeah, because you could have had them both like being sort of possessed, and like as opposed to just a pure beam light, them like firing light at each other, firing kind of parts of their essence against each other. You know,
Yeah,
there's a
you
lot of
could have
ways
had
you
them
can make
like,
more
let's have an
dramatic
arm
without
wrestle.
too much more of a budget. Yeah,
Let's have a bare knuckle.
The only way, the only TV/film where an arm wrestle is dramatic is in The Fly when he breaks his arm.
No, you're forgetting about the Sylvester Stallone classic Over the Top.
Yes.
I do not remember that one. I've got to admit.
You've not seen Over the Top.
I think I've seen it. I think I've seen it, but just not since I was a kid.
It's
Over
brilliant.
the Top is probably the pinnacle of fighting movies.
It's certainly the best arm wrestling road trip family
If that's a
drama.
watch along in the making, I can see.
Yeah, I mean, basically, Stallone has to win custody of his son from his son's evil grandfather. And the only way to do it is by winning the World Arm Wrestling Championships in Vegas.
Right, let's see how many of the Geek High Council we can get to attend a watch along, which we're going to do of this. It's gotta happen,
I think Over the Top's fantastic.
No, you saw me.
Anyway, but we'll maybe we'll cover that another day.
Yeah, sorry.
But so there's two films where arm wrestling is dramatic. So it comes down to Win and Cisco and who's got the most faith, and ultimately it's Cisco because Cisco decides. Guys, how do I join this conversation? Oh, you want to come on the podcast? Ooh, I don't. It doesn't quite work like that. Have we posted it differently this week? I've probably posted it differently because I've set it up.
No, I think it's just I mean, usually we just have us three, but we have been known upon occasion to have guests. I don't know how the guys feel about that now because we haven't done it for a long time.
We haven't, but we can certainly look at it if there's a demand for it.
Yeah,
we did.
But maybe arrange something in the new year. We've got a few bits.
Yeah, we will. We don't have the setup to just bring someone in on the stream at the moment. If it was just a Facebook stream straight from his phone, we could do that, but unfortunately we can't. But comment away to your heart's content, and we will engage with it.
And we can look at if you want to come on through an episode, we can have
absolutely
in the new year.
Yeah, New Year sounds good. Yeah.
So where were we? Yes, so Kai Wynn bottles it and turns off the machine. And the possible interpretations of this then are she doesn't have the faith that Cisco has, or could you look at it as she's the more pragmatic of the two? And well, I can see Bajor is now suffering. The Prophets might win, but
Well,
if I do
when-
this, I'll
when she-
definitely stop the suffering. It's
when-
an interesting idea.
when she does this, when you look at the white beans, because you have the prophet who's sort of white and the Paraf that's red, and the white is nearly right up to the Paraf. At the end, the prophet is massively
So
going to
you
win.
think the
this.
Prophet would have won?
I think the prophet would have won, and it looks like, because it's way more than 3/4 of the way towards the Paraf, so the Paraf's losing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Kai Wing does the thing with where she floods the tachyon particles again, was it?
Yeah,
That's
that
interesting, 'cause I
forces
never
them out of
noticed
the
that.
bodies.
I never noticed that. That's a really good point, because I do think there's a degree of, even though she does say when no one else is around, she goes like, "May the prophets forgive me." I think she's trying to lie to herself, because I do think there's a side of her that it's like she doesn't want the emissary to bring this about, because that would
Yeah,
totally
I think that's part of it.
I think
She's
that's
worried.
definitely part of it, but I think she's trying to tell herself that she's still doing the right thing. She's trying to save people. I think she is trying to lie to herself, but deep down in her heart, her subconscious is trying to sabotage the emissary doing
Oh,
this.
she's massively jealous of Cisco, and that's it said in this episode.
Yeah,
And is
she says there'll be no need for Kai as Fenix or even emissaries. It's
Well,
like,
that's
yeah,
it.
no,
Is that
no,
what
yeah.
she's worried about as well? If the Prophets prevail here, does that mean that her position of power is now gone?
It's her position. She uses the excuse, "I did it to save Jake. I couldn't risk it for you." But the reality, I think, the reality is that she was worried about losing her own power if the Prophets.
Yeah.
In fact, whichever side won, she'd lose her power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you got to think, like, over the years of the show, the different popularity of the emissary. Like, there's probably kind of like polls done like they do on politicians on Bajor. It's like, what's the popularity rating of the emissary? Like, there's probably about 90% believers, 10% not by now.
Yeah.
But she's probably clinging on to the fact that some people don't believe. And of course, during times of war, people cling to stuff like religion and their beliefs. And so it does make sense that he would be hugely popular more than ever. So I think it is, yeah. She's so worried that if he did this, no one would dare say anything against him. And she would lose her thin grip of power as a religious leader.
There's also probably an element of, I've only just thought of this now, but like a bit of resentment of the fact that, like, yes, Cisco's the emissary, and yeah, he turns up and he does stuff every so often, but essentially he sits up on a station miles away most of the
lets her
time.
do what she wants on the planet.
Whereas she's on the planet having to deal with all the day-to-day stuff, and I bet it's always a case of if something goes right, they say, "Oh, the emissary," and if something goes wrong, they go, "Oh, the Kai's done that." So I can see why she's a bit resentful of him.
Aren't prophets just gossips at that time? Their view is subjective.
The Prophets, well, because the Prophets are non-linear, so
Is that how I'm gonna take it?
I suppose their view is subjective to an extent, but they can see how everything's going to pan out. So technically, the Prophets, actually, that's just made me think, the Prophets know they don't win this.
I think this is the one where the Pirates are involved, because they're also gods. I think those are points.
Maybe.
It's like the fixed points in time in Doctor Who. It's like that's their time
Maybe
when
they
they don't know
can't
what's
see
going to
past
happen.
it, yeah.
There's two branches. Every time there's Parafs, it could
It
go
must be,
either way.
because otherwise the Parades wouldn't bother if they knew how it was going to pan out. So, yeah, there'd be no point.
Yeah, I think
That's an
whenever they're
interesting
involved,
idea, though.
there's a point in time they don't know.
Yeah, it must be. And then we do get that lovely moment with Jake and Cisco where Cisco is feeling bad, right? You know, rightly, 'cause he has endangered his son in the name
Only
of the
a little
Prophets.
bit.
Only a little bit, yeah. He was only possessed by the
It's only
devil.
a little bit in mortal danger.
But then you do get that moment, and it's a testament to like the strength of their relationship that he's still a young man at this stage, and he's able to not be angry at his dad about this because he's like, no, that was evil, and I know why you had to do that. So, very grown-up reaction from Jake, which is a bit of a contrast to him being whiny and bored at the beginning. And as you say, Squee, if they'd have done something with that, we could have had a little arc for Jake. However, though, notably, neither of these two episodes have a B plot, so there probably wasn't room to do much more with Jake in this.
But I think you could have pulled out some of the other stuff of people disbelieving. For any one of those things, you have Cisco acting irrationally and him being questioned and Jake worrying about him. Like, he could be talking to all these people who are talking to Cisco about, like, they're not true. Take all that stuff out because we know they know they're true. Good
point.
We've said it a number of times through the episode that it is just silly for them to keep saying that they're not real.
Yeah, just take that out. Take that out. Pull in some scenes with Jake.
They've had indefutable proof.
Yeah.
And every moment when Cisco's acting a bit like mad, you just dial that up. You just make him look a bit unhinged.
You go to every Brookswood, you had to be intense.
I don't know if he can do it. I don't know. Maybe he can do a bit of
Can you just slalom a bit more, Adrian, for this scene?
So let's move on to Valiant then, because we've had a religion heavy episode, so we get an action war heavy episode to compensate for it.
Rascals, the teen edition, but better.
Pretty much. Star Trek does Lord of the Flies, brackets, again.
Yeah.
End brackets. But so we start off with the scene in Quarks because we still have to have all our main cast turn up at some point to say hello because we've got to pay them, even though this is a Nog and Jake episode. So we get this contrived thing where Quark, gotta go, my phone's on low power, but thanks for the invite. I loved every minute. You're always invited to watch the show.
Always to come watch Emma. And we will talk. If you want to come on, we will talk about it in the new year.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
So yeah, we get this thing. Everybody turns up. Well, not everybody, but we get Dax turns up and Quark turns up.
Well, I quite like how it does it because you've got Quark in the. I love the start of this where Quark's in. Is it this one where Quark's in negotiations? Or was that last episode?
No,
this one's where at the beginning he's backed up with orders.
Is that the next episode? And I've started watching another.
I may have started watching the next one.
No, I love the fact that if you listen carefully at the beginning here, where they've got everyone who's queued up the bar because the replicator's down. If you listen, all the other extras and voiceover artists are going blah, 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 and there's just one really clear female voice going, "Hey, come on, Quark, over here, come on."
Yeah.
You can hear her dialogue, and she's the only one. I don't know why it stuck out to me so much this time.
It's like my favorite example of that is in Return of the Jedi, just after the Super Star Destroyer crashes into the Death Star. There's a reaction shot on Admiral Akbar's ship of everyone going, "Way!" But if you listen really closely, someone in the background goes, "Die, dickheads!"
No, sorry.
Yeah, and it was still there as of the DVD release. So I don't know if Lucas has taken it out. Yeah. Honestly,
don't say that. Lucas will do it now. He'll find a way. Like I know Star Wars own it now.
Do with it anymore. I will have a look on Disney Plus and I'll see if it's still there.
I know Disney Plus own it now, but if Lucas hears, he will break into Disney just to get that out.
It was definitely there as of the DVD, and so yeah, we've got all this going on with Quark, and we get an excuse.
His replicator's down.
But what this brings in the idea that Nog can't fix it because Nog's away on a mission, and
Nog's gone to visit Ferenginar.
Rom can't fix it, and then he was going to send Nog, and Nog can't go because he's off to Ferenginar.
But then Dax turns up, and Quark just can't understand this. Why Dax is fixing it.
True.
And Quark does still fancy Dax. So he's like really upset at the fact that she's getting her hands dirty doing stuff.
And I think part of that is the fact that they know at this point that Dax, the character, is leaving, so they're reminding us how fond all the other characters are of her, so that it lands.
I never even thought of it like that. I just, because it did seem, I must admit, it's like, it's fine, but it's like, I would have preferred just getting into the episode a little bit.
It's
I don't know, it
just
just seems like a bit of an orphan scene.
It's that little scene at the start, so you get all your main casting because they've got to appear because they're getting paid money to be in the episode.
Yeah. I just wish it tied into some. I don't know. It just felt like some or nothing. You know, everything that happens here we've covered before.
Well, it gave a reason why Nog could go off on this trip because it done a favor for Dax. So Dax was returning the favour so he could go off on his little trip to Ferenginar.
It's always like with modern TV now, they probably wouldn't do this scene because contracts work differently and things like that. So they go, we're just having a Jake and Nog episode. This episode, we won't see anybody. But yeah, that's why it's there.
Well, I just felt like you could have done the same with walking him to the airlock or something. It wasn't offensive. It just didn't do anything for me, I guess.
Yeah. And then, Nog and Jake are going to Ferenginar. Jake now is really interested in getting a scoop, even though he wasn't bothered last week when there was a literal war between heaven and hell going on. But no anyway.
Federation reporter has ever been to Ferenginar.
Because what I was kind of concerned about was, I think there's a few episodes where Jake, as he's and Croft have matured as an actor and as a character. I think he becomes more interesting, but sometimes when it's him and Nog together, they get a bit silly in some of the episodes where they're on the journey there. So there's like one of the episodes where like they have an argument over their room and it's just like, oh, I can't be asked for this, to be honest with you. And I remembered this episode being a bit more like that, but no, Jake is really good in this episode. I love how serious he is, how he's like, you know, come on, it's ridiculous. Like he sees how ridiculous the moment is, whereas like, Nog is all signed up because he's excited. He's becoming a chief engineer. He's becoming a lieutenant. Like all this exciting stuff. And I think he gets a bit carried away with it. Whereas the truth's probably somewhere in between the two. So I think it was a really interesting pairing with grown-up versions of both of them. Like it's the first time we really see them together in a two-hander where they're both acting really mature, but just thinking differently. And I like that.
And they get rescued from the Jem'Hadar by the Valiant, which is commanded by Red Squad. Which we did meet back in Homefront Paradise Lost. So the idea of Red Squad's already been knocking about.
Well, it was Nova Squad, wasn't it?
That was Nova Squad.
I thought that to begin with as well.
Yeah.
I know
exactly. This does seem like the sort of thing that
it does seem very much, and it makes you wonder if after the events of Nova Squad, they rebranded it to Red Squad.
Yeah, I like that because I was thinking maybe they had to pay someone for inventing Nova Squad if they used that, so they changed it slightly.
There's also that thing, but it does seem like
I like that.
Nova Squad was the elite of the academy, and now Red Squad is the elite of the academy. So I just wonder if after what happened with Nova Squad and all that, and
they're like Nick Lucano's ruined it for us. We're going to have to rebrand. Right. We need a PR rebranding.
We're going to rebrand it, and we're going to do it by giving you all our cadets a colour band, red, who are the top ones, and we'll call them Red Squad. And then they can carry on just the same as they can do the same shit that Nova Squad did. They can go off in ships and start wars with their own private little wars with the Dominion and whatever if they want.
No,
I think they're probably going to have to scrap Red Squad after this one as well. This don't go well.
I must admit, but there are a lot of other colours in the spectrum.
True.
I was just going to say, it was like, thank you, Elliot, because after I realized, because I was like, oh, this is the same as the one from that episode. I go, oh, no, that was Nova Squad.
Yeah.
Oh, God, they've changed it for the same reasons because the character. You've now in universe saved it for me, though. Now I can just go, oh, they rebranded after that. That's great.
You know what, though? This captain could have been played by Robert Duncan McNeil because he's very much cut from a similar cloth. Well, like this could have been Nick Lucano.
It's almost like they wanted the Nick Lucano, but they couldn't use him because Voyager had started by now. So you can't have, and he got kicked out, but that same character. So
Very
let's just
similar, yeah.
give him a new name and cast someone else and just have him do the same lines that we'd write for Locarno.
And
He was a really
sadly,
interesting character. I think the guy
he
playing the
was.
captain's really good in this. He's probably him and the first officer, I think, were probably the strongest out of the crew here.
And we don't get to meet Captain Ramirez, but I always picture him as Ramirez from Highlander.
Nice.
But
And why wouldn't you?
exactly, it'd be brilliant. Well, I've got the Red Squad. Come on, the Red Squad.
And it's just Sean Connery, how old he was at the time. It's like, I am but a teenage boy. Being the captain, I'm also
Red Squad.
I'm also obviously Spanish. If you can believe I'm Spanish, so why not believe that I'm 17?
And yeah, this Captain Ramirez, okay, he gave him a battlefield commission to make him a captain. Fair enough. If Captain Ramirez made one mistake, it was probably he maybe could have said something like, "Get back to the Federation as quick as you can, son," instead of go and try and win the war on your own. You know,
complete the mission. No, let me go. Right, I'm giving you a field commission. Get the as soon as you can.
Exactly.
Mind you, we didn't hear exactly what was said in that conversation. He goes, like, "You've done great. We almost did it." And like he dies before he can say, "Now get them home." And like he's taking that's like, "Yep, that's him asking me to continue on."
So yeah,
I wonder how much he edited it in his head.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
It's like in Only Fools and Horses, where there's like, "Oh, you know what our mum said on her deathbed?" And it's like it's a different thing every time. I wonder if he's doing a bit of that.
Maybe so, yeah.
He also said that I was a great lover just to any of the female officers on board. I don't know why he brought that up, but that was him saying it.
He said,
"Don't worry about the
rules.
Don't think there was anything going on or anything."
Yeah, don't worry about the rules about fraternizing with the female officers, he said. He said that doesn't apply to Red Squad.
And they figure out what he's doing, but it's all right because he's already seen them completely naked.
Yeah.
And Willow agrees.
Yeah, Willow. She would have been all over it.
But it is very much Lord of the Flies, isn't it? Like, we've got this thing where they were on a ship with 7 adult officers. The adult officers have all died, leaving the hesitate to say children, but leaving the young people to be in charge. And it's how quickly does that fall apart.
I think you've got to assume that when they go off to be the academy, that they've passed the equivalent of our sixth form beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
But they do the education quicker. So I'm assuming they go to be cadets at like 16.
Yeah, probably.
Sort of got the age that we'd have gone into sixth form. So you'd start it when you were 16.
Yeah, so these are probably meant to be 17, 18.
18, yeah, and I think they're played like that they're meant to be.
I think
still teenagers.
I got the feeling that some of them were 16, and it was 16 now. Like most of them were a bit older because they would have been.
But they all still teenagers.
And there was one scene. It was just an extra, but there was someone who looked like they were kid up. They didn't look like they were a Vulcan. It looked Romulan because of the haircut.
Maybe, yeah.
Which we've never mentioned of Romulan in Starfleet. I thought it was kind of
interesting.
No, I don't.
What's
think it
interesting here as well is
look at makeup though. It is clearly more Romulan than because Vulcans have a certain look to their hair and everything. I think it might have just been we got an extra. And someone's just made them up as a Romulan and they've not really thought it through. Maybe, I don't know. Just if you watch it again, it's in the battles, the scene where they're in the final battle.
Maybe it's because, it's maybe that where it's right. We've got an extra. We want them to be alien. What's a quick alien want? Vulcan. And they've just got the makeup slightly wrong because they've rushed it.
It's possible. It definitely looks more
character.
Mind you, we've had like Simon Tarsis with Drumhead, like he was half Romulan. So maybe after that.
Yes, but that was poo-pooed.
Well, I'm just wondering if after that, like, because there was so many conversations which would have come out of those events. Maybe half Romulans were allowed in Starfleet or something.
So here's the thing. I wonder what would have happened if, when Nog, who is an officer, albeit is an ensign at this stage, when they got on this ship, if the guy had said, "I'm the captain," if Nog had said, "Don't be stupid, I'm taking command. You're a bunch of cadets.
Yeah.
We're going back to the Federation." I think they'd have probably fallen in line if Nog had have done that.
think they would.
But he
I don't think they
hesitates.
Because
would.
it was,
and he
he
doesn't.
outranked. He actually, like, you've got the captain, but he's only an acting captain. He's really a cadet still. And as soon as he gets back to the academy, he's back as a cadet.
He doesn't
Nog
say it.
is actually genuinely outranks them.
I would actually argue that because he said the way he says it anyway. I know what the formalities are because I was kind of thinking he doesn't say it as acting captain. He said I was given a field promotion, which does work a bit differently.
Yeah,
the captain does have the right to.
To be fair, we did all see Star Trek 2009 how this did happen to occur.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you can get promoted in a day from like the janitor to being the captain of the starship,
regardless of how many other officers are on board.
But I think the way they've written it and the way they played it, it does play like they are so loyal to him. I don't think they would have gone with Nog. I think Nog
I think Nog might have been able to, because I think maybe even the captain would have cracked if Nog had held that mirror up to him and just gone, you've done a good job, but I don't know.
If he'd gone on board and gone, well done, son.
I
think well done, son, for looking after your crew. It's now time for us to get back to the Federation.
I think Nog is the only one you could have done this with, because technically this could happen to O'Brien. He's a non-commissioned officer. He would have to follow the orders, as would Bashir, as would Dax, but I couldn't see this story work, or Worf. I couldn't see the story working with any of them except Nog.
Yeah,
I think if it was anyone else in the crew, I would have gone with you guys that they would have just submitted to like, okay, it's the adult in the room, basically. Yeah. Whereas he's about their age, so the whole thing is, I think, they don't see him as anything above them. So even if he starts throwing his weight around, especially seeing as they've all galvanized around this captain, they've had to get as far as they have. I think they would have just poo-pooed him, but I think it works so well because Nog is also young and a bit impressionable. So when he gets offered to be the chief engineer and he gets listened to by the captain so much, he's like, fuck yeah, I remember some of this. So it's like, it works in both ways that they would both go with it.
You've also got that Noggies of them years of cadets. Like Red Squad has been off on this mission for however long. Nog has gone to the academy and they're fast tracking them in the academy to ensigns and out into the war.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So Nog is the same age. In normal things, Nog could still be a cadet, and this had been Red Squad at the academy, and they'd be above Nog.
And I know this is jumping ahead a little bit, but it's very on theme to what we're talking about. Do you think at the end? Now this is just my head, canon, nothing else, but I think that because the guy at the time, when he gives a field promotion to Nog, he is a captain. Like they don't use the word acting, certainly. So if that was entered in the log as he was made captain at that moment, he gives a promotion to Nog. I think legally, if you like, that's that. Like
Nog should have been alluded. Yeah,
but I'm gonna say I think my little headcanon is that Nog turned it down because of what went down. I was wondering.
Maybe, Nog
he decided not to even mention it. He was like, "That never happened." Like,
Yeah, I reckon it's probably that he hasn't mentioned it because he's embarrassed by how quickly he was kind of seduced by it all.
Yeah, because I think if things had gone right, he would have been going. It's like, well, Captain here gave me a promotion,
Yeah, hang on, I'm a lieutenant commander now.
Yeah, if they destroyed that Dominion ship and got back. It'd have been, chief engineer, me now.
I think even if you come back,
lieutenant commander.
Oh, Brian, go make my dinner.
But I reckon if he'd come back,
then he'd have got that straight away.
I think even with the fail in the mission, if he had wanted to push it or wanted to say, it's like, well, I was given this promotion. It's up to you guys. I think legally it would have had to stand. I think that's his choice not to. Like the only way it works is that he's chosen not to. Really?
Yeah, you're right. If you follow it through logically, yeah. And then that adds sort of an extra poignancy to in the series finale. He gets promoted to lieutenant again, and he's earned it the right way, sort of this time.
Very Star Trek, maybe.
Yeah, and I like all the sort of interactions that Jake has with the ensign who's from the moon. And they talk about how people on Earth call the moon Luna, whereas she's like, no, you call it the moon if you live on the moon.
No, she doesn't say that. What they say is like, he goes, oh, Grandad calls the moon like it's the only one. And she goes, well, we don't even call it Luna there. And she doesn't actually say what they call it. It really annoys me every time because I'm going, well, what do you call it then?
No, she says if you live on the moon, you don't call it Luna. So they still call it the moon.
Well, she didn't say that. Because the way I heard it, it sounded more like they don't call it the moon. She says they don't even call it Luna, suggesting there's a third.
No, she says if you live on the moon, you don't call it Luna.
Yeah, but she doesn't
still call it the moon because
she says if you live on the moon, so she's calling it the moon.
I don't think she used the word moon in that sense. I really
she
don't.
did.
I've got to watch that back.
She did because that stood out to me. I was like, he's trying to make. It's like a cute moment because he's trying to make this connection with her by saying, "Oh, can you believe my granddad still calls it the moon?"
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Yeah, but if you live on the moon, you do call it the moon." So it's just kind of.
Oh, I thought the suggestion was they call it a third thing, which
no, it's he has an expectation of
it's like
he wants to say something cute that
amuses
her, and
like the reality is
she's like, no, we're from different worlds, you know. It's
I get how they're doing that, but it's just the end bit I didn't get.
The whole reality of this is, as a species, we have been extremely lazy in naming our own moon.
We have.
Like every other moon in the bloody solar system is named after something. We've named bloody pebbles flying around the solar system interesting names. But our own moon, we've just gone, it's the moon.
Yeah, we should be going, hey, is the Armstrong up yet? Is it a full Armstrong tonight?
But you've also got the other point that ours is the definitive.
That's true. It's the definite article moon.
Well, it's like I've got about 5 Steves on my phone, but my best bud Steve, he's just Steve because he was the first one to get in there.
There you go.
Fair. Which comes out of this though, where he goes like, I know they've got to do it, and we've only got 45 minutes of TV, and I get it, but it's like the thing that he loses his shit over. It's like, you reminded her about home. You said about like, oh, where do you live and stuff, and it's like, you could have lost this captain this long without allowing a little bit of a morale moment.
Throw him in the brig. We don't need people crying.
Well, you do find out though that they've been there popping pills and all that to keep morale.
Oh, yeah, you do. Stuff. That's a nice little moment that it shows you that it's getting to him.
But I'm saying it's like they.
But he also goes. It does say in it that all the crew were taking pills, and it's like, oh, give him a few of these to make you feel better. And obviously, the crew, these are young kids still, and they're under huge stress, and they've turned into a bunch of druggies. We really look at like what the point of this is, like all the drugs they're taking to make themselves feel better. We are lucky we didn't get a remake of The Apple here.
The only thing very true point. But the only thing I was thinking is like, it's just to have demanded the amount of loyalty or commanded the amount of loyalty that he has, as well as the drugs, you would have also had to have won people over. You would have had to have had that kind of warmth there, I think, on some level. And for him to not even allow them to mention home seems a little bit, he can't be that much of a rube. You have to have a better thing that Cisco reminds, like maybe he questions just very subtly goes like, hey, I don't know if this guy's making all the right moves. Like he doesn't say it to try and do an insurrection. He just does a really offhand comment about, I just think that was maybe a mistake earlier. And that's what he clamps down on because he can't have anyone
maybe
been a bit stronger for me. It just seems a bit weird that, it's almost like that. You would never follow him over broken glass the way these guys seem to.
Like, I think it's that thing, though, that they've all got that ego thing because in Red Squadron as well, where they've all got their own personal ego, that they are the best. So
Red
you see-
Squad, even
Yeah.
better than Nova Squad.
Yeah,
But we compare
but
them to
you-
Nova Squad, and if you think of with Nova Squad, you did see the warmth with them. You did see why they liked each other.
True.
They were just in
Yeah.
this really tense situation. Whereas here, I want to see a bit more of why they kind of like respect this guy, why he commands such authority, and clamping down this way, I think takes a bit away from that. I don't.
Yeah,
You just couldn't operate that way.
I wonder if it's partly because they respected like the captain that had taken him out, and the captain to have the trust to make him the captain is why
Yeah,
they
could
formed
be in there.
something like that. And then anyway, so we get to.
Oh, and I've got
Gunner-
another reason why they're all following as well, because
Go
that
on.
first officer is all over him. She seriously has the hots. So teenage,
Oh, she does, yeah.
she seriously has the hots, and she's enforcing what he wants doing on the rest of the crew.
And I also like the fact that in that scene where he is kind of like they are grilling Jake, he just sits back and is quiet and lets her attack him, and she just in a very good way for the plot and what we're trying to achieve here. She does seem like she seems particularly young, particularly naive, and she's trying to do this grilling where she's like 5 foot nothing, you know. It's like and I kind of like that because that is what it would be like if you were being grilled by someone who's just been put in the situation.
She's
doesn't mean that she isn't
like...
older than years, but it's like it does feel like a someone wearing their parents' clothing kind of thing.
Yeah, she's like someone cosplaying as Shelby, and not quite nailing it.
Whereas he nails it, and like some of the like, I think the younger girl the one who he was talking to, the chief. I think she plays it perfectly, that she is out of her depth. She is a bit lost. Like she didn't want to job in Jake, but she's kind of been caught out in this moment. She plays that perfectly. So I think they're all perfectly cast to show what they need to. So you got to have one who's super confident, one who looks like she's playing the part right, but she just doesn't quite fit because she's too young. Like and she sounds like a kid wearing parents' clothes, and one who's just completely lost and ready to break. And it just that's a great microcosm for what the whole crew would be like.
And then you have this bit where they're outlining the plan, and this is where Jake does speak up, and he's like, "Look, you know, my dad wouldn't do this," and as he points out, it's not a my dad's better than your dad thing. It's like his dad literally is one of the best.
I love Jake's little speech there, and it's like it's so just like It's like the thing I heard someone saying. It's like, oh, you can't do that because that's our rule within the army. And it's like, well, I'm not in the army. Like someone's saying this about something else, and it's exactly that thing. It's like, oh, you can't possibly say that while the captain's giving a speech, going, "Yeah, I'm not in Starfleet. I can say what the fuck I want." And my dad happens to be the emissary, so fuck you.
The way the
in charge of the entire fleet.
Really decorated war hero at this stage, the emissary.
My dad designed this ship,
so I can say whatever.
And what's more, my dad designed this ship that you're flying about in.
Even better. Yeah, I'm not in your little club, but my dad is, and he's the best at it.
And the way the captain overcomes it, or the way the crew overcome it, it shows how it has got to a cultish level that they just start chanting Red Squad.
Red Squad.
And that's it. And you get this great bit where Nog joins in, but he's sort of looking at everyone around him as if like he's not quite sure he should be joining in, but
you're fighting an argument by chanting Red Squad instead of
that's
fighting
it.
The argument.
But it works because of the grip he's got of them, and it just whips them up into a frenzy without thinking about it.
This is also that thing about kids being more impressionable and all that, and easier to manipulate. And it is because of the age that he's able to manipulate them this way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it leads naturally into that last scene. If you guys are okay, we're moving on. But it's just it's when Jake does say that thing about says that thing about put that in your story too. It's like show this captain was out of his depth. Like this guy was out of his depth. He had done a lot of good stuff, but then he fucked up. But he was also like not a bad guy. He also did way more than anyone of his age should ever be expected to do or could have done. Probably,
Exactly,
like a lot of
and
people. It's all true, and I love that kind of nuanced ending to it. And
Yeah.
it does fit along with the story because I don't think Jake or Nog got ever completely wrong in this episode.
no,
Maybe you could say not going along with that last plan a little bit, but apart from that, up until then, they're both representing some really good viewpoints.
Like to be fair, the last plan on paper, it made sense because they've got the scans, they know what it is, they know what should destroy it, they know how to do it. So everything about the plan should have worked, except there was obviously some sort of shielding or something. Or the
I still
information
think
was wrong.
Getting like 3 inches away from the ship was probably like a gymnast
300 meters.
And-
Sorry, it was a mile away.
but it comes down to what Nog says at the end, that like he wasn't a good captain, and that's what it is. It's regardless of whether the mission had succeeded or not, he should have been a good enough captain to say we're not going to attempt it.
Yeah.
Even though if they'd have got back okay and everything, he'd have maybe got a reprimand, but they couldn't have said you did something wrong because he was following orders. He was given an order to carry it on by his superior officer, and he did that to the best of his ability. But he was not a good captain because he didn't recognize that this was not a good idea. And a good captain would have done that. And that's the thing. It's the difference between someone who's grown up and he's seen the world as it really is, and someone who's seen it in black and whites. You have the chief at the end saying, "Oh, he was great, he was a hero," and Nog says, "Well, he was all these things, but he wasn't a good captain. There's nuance there. There's differences. It's not black or white," and I love that.
He didn't protect his crew at the end of the day.
Exactly.
He wanted the glory of completing the mission above the protection of his crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just the way that Nog looks so broken. He's realized what went wrong, and Jake doesn't try and spike it. He doesn't say anything. He's just like quiet, which he's been like raising flags all through this episode. It's just so nicely played.
He hasn't done any of this. I told you so.
Yeah, he's taking no pleasure out of this.
And you screwed up there. Jake is, you're right. He's not taking any pleasure. And he knows that his mate's hurt. He's not ready to comfort him about his part in it, but he isn't going to rub it in what he's done. And he realizes that Nog does know what's happened and what was wrong with it.
The other thing I don't want to sort of like miss out is just when the ship is getting blown up and you see the escape pods coming out and just getting taken out. It's like, oh yeah, that's another handful of kids just being murdered.
Yeah,
another handful of kids. Oh, that one just went up in flames. That's kids burning to death right there. It's like,
that's the only thing
think about it for a second. It is grim, that scene.
It's grim, but one bit that is a little bit cheesy is like only one escape pod survived, and it was one with our named crew on.
Could have been two.
They could have said a couple of other lads survived as well, or something. I don't know, but it doesn't hugely detract from it. But yeah, I think it's not like an arc-heavy Dominion War episode, but it's a good war episode.
The entire episode is standalone. It doesn't affect the main story at all. But it is about the Dominion War because they're attacking a Dominion.
Oh, exactly.
But it's a really, like you say, it's Star Trek's version of Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you couldn't have not covered this one. Certainly, I think.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't.
It is a really good episode. I really enjoyed this episode.
I think it's a good double bill this week.
And it's it's one of those clever ones that they used to do a lot, where you use your existing model as a different ship and you change your name and registration.
Yeah, it's classic.
And like this one, they changed the last two digits because it becomes 74210.
Mm-hmm.
And you know
because
what?
we all know they find 74205.
Of course.
And you know what, Elliot? I'm a sucker for it every time. Like, if you go,
Yeah.
oh, they're going to ignore this, we go, oh my god, they've changed the
Yeah,
set slightly,
exactly.
but it excites me every bloody time.
They're
And
gonna
they're
film, film the model at that angle instead
Yeah,
of that
that's
angle.
the best thing about it. It's like there's no up in space.
The
so
Yamato
it-
is the twin of the Enterprise. I can't wait to see this exact same set just shot at a slightly different
Yeah.
angle, or maybe a bit different
Absolutely.
lighting.
It is,
Well, we'll
but
wrap.
that was one of the
Go on.
beauties of when you had models instead of CGI for your special effects, that they were inherently expensive with the models. So
Mhm.
you did use them as different ships.
Yeah,
you'd shoot, and
absolutely.
you'd
You
shoot
did.
it. You'd shoot it at different. You change a bit of the paperwork for the name and the registration, and you'd shoot it at a slightly different angle. Bang,
So
job done.
we'll wrap up there then for this week. Next week we're going to cover the season 6 finale, Tears of the Prophets. So bring your hankies, and we will also have a bit of Christmas fun. We're going to play the Wheel of Trek.
Yeah, formerly known
we're-
as Star Trek Top Trumps, but that became very confusing to everyone.
No, we're not playing Top Trumps this time.
But
We're doing...
no, we're not playing
No, I said
it. But
formally.
we're going to use the
It's evolved.
prop of the Wheel of Trek.
We are going to use the Wheel of Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's it.
Yeah, that's what it's going
And
to be now.
it is going
Wheel
to
of
give us characters, and we're going to decide what we'd get them for Christmas.
I
So
cannot
if
wait.
you have any ideas you want to throw out in the chat
Play
on
along.
the Facebook group over the week, and you can play along at the time. Yeah, what would you get the Star Trek characters for Christmas?
If you
Yeah,
want,
I'd really encourage you to come along and play along at the time, because we'd love to have, like, we can have the audience as like a fourth player.
We can.
Monday night, we will be putting the names on the wheel. So
Oh, yeah.
up until Monday, you have time to go onto the Facebook page, and you can add it in. If put a name that you'd like us to add to the wheel,
Good
and we'll add it on there.
Yeah, and we'll have different. Are we doing different wheels for different shows again? Because I think
No,
that's
we're
good.
just going to do one giant wheel.
One huge wheel.
One
Oh, well,
giant wheel.
like the
gonna be-
Christmas wheel of Brie. Like
My
it's going to be.
screen's not going to be big enough for this wheel. It's going to be the biggest wheel in the world ever. Nobody has ever seen a bigger wheel. This will be a wheel that's bigger than any wheel has ever been.
This is
big
gonna
We're
be
going to make this
bigger-
wheel classy again. Where's the hat?
Bigger
Come on.
than Michael McIntyre's wheel, this wheel.
Oh,
Well, I'll tell you,
my hat's
it's gonna-
slightly out of reach, or I would have
It's
put it
gonna-
on there.
It's going to be perfect for Christmas because, yeah, not only is it like the wheel of Brie that you get on the
Well-
cheese board at Christmas, but it's like the Trivial Pursuit wheel, but like the ultimate Doom Trivial Pursuit wheel.
Well, I just think it's nice because we're doing a bit of a sad episode next week. So we're going to end, because we're not doing an episode between Christmas and New Year. We're having a week
No,
off.
we're not.
No.
So we're going to end the year on a light note with some good fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't
So
wait.
if you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, we're at RetrekPod on X, we're retrekpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the socials, including Retrek Model Studios on YouTube. Elliot, what's going on there at the minute?
Not a lot because of Christmas and being busy and everything.
Fair play.
But on Christmas Day morning, you're going to be shooting a video of me opening my Secret Santa from the Hobby Link
Absolutely.
International Group.
100% we'll be doing that.
On Christmas night at midnight, we're going to be shooting another video because I'm putting it straight out because I'm doing the Kenny Can't Hang group build, which goes between Christmas and New Year. So there'll be a bunch. I'm doing a build very quickly. I've got a week to do it.
If I'm awake at midnight on Christmas Day, but we'll see.
James, you're sleeping in this front room. Do you think you're sleeping with these lights going?
That's a very fair point. Dr. Squee, what have we got going on the Dr. Squee show?
Well, yeah, I don't know yet. Basically, it's kind of snuck up on me only because where my radio show goes out on Tuesday, like it's one day short of a week away from Christmas. So I thought I had another week. I'm like, oh shit, it's Christmas week episode. So I'm trying to sort out a guest to do some Christmas themed. We might have a guest. If not, we're going to be playing some Christmas tunes. I might read The Night Before Christmas just for a bit of a crack. We're just going to have a good festive time one way or the other, maybe with a guest.
I've got a question about your Christmas show if you play music.
Ooh.
Yep.
Or a request.
Wham will be included.
No, that you don't include Wham, and don't be the dick that puts people in Whammer hella just...
No, you cannot command the radio stations not to play something just for this. And to be frank, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Look, I'm not hating against people playing it. However, I will not let it influence my behavior because I like that song and it means less playing of it as far as I'm concerned. And I know after the 24th you can play it lots, but it's like, I want to play it. I like it. It's a great song. And I accidentally, even though I wasn't playing, because that game gets played so much, when it came up in a film, I was like, oh, that's the moment. You can't, even if you're not playing, you can't help but notice the first
you're not
time you hear
playing,
it.
but you are playing. Everyone's playing till they're out.
And you noticed when you were out.
So there you go.
No,
I noticed, but it doesn't mean I was playing. But what I might do, and we'll see what I might do, is because there is a version which was done by James Dean Bradfield, the lead singer of Preachers.
That's fine.
Which was on Tier 5 Friday on Channel 4 years ago, which I've got. So I might play that instead to be nice to all the non-residents of Wamhala.
Yeah.
I just for you, okay, just for Admiral Elliot, happy Christmas. I will play that version instead. There you go.
And thanks
Although
for
I'm playing the
Pogues
time as well.
We will see you next time on the retrek.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Dragon LLAP.
Fascinating.
I like after